My name is Tobias Scheele, so I'm working in the software department of Schneider Electric, and I'm in charge of the design simulation optimization business and as well for the oil and gas business, in particular upstream, midstream and downstream is my focus. What I want to talk to now about is the complete, true end-to-end digital twin, so a true 360 view on the process asset. We're talking about is, particularly in the process industry, from upstream, midstream to downstream, is very asset intensive. So it's big machines, big plants, so big pipelines. So they have quite some investment you have to do. And there's always this conversation about the digital representation of them or the digital twin. So we're taking a different approach when we're talking about a digital twin. So we are starting completely with our value chain. So now our value chain starts by designing the plant. Even the biggest asset, is it a refinery, is it a platform, has to start with a simulation about it. So which means the closed mass energy balance, what goes in, goes out. That describes what is the sizing of the equipment, how expensive will it be, will you ever be profitable on this one? And this is actually the first digital representation of the asset. So you can say that's the first digital twin. So in here we're not stopping here, so because we are expanding that concept, we're saying we're not just taking it for the process simulation, we're taking it even further to the design, so that you're saying, okay, what type of equipment do I'm using? So how does it behave? How do I put it together? And you want to take the same digital representation or as much as possible, so moving further down the value chain. And then the next item you're focusing on is, and taking this time into account, is supply chain. So because when you're doing a design of an asset or how you want to operate it, you need to take into account what is the raw material I'm using? What am I selling? What are the products I'm producing? So then you need to make a decision, how flexible do I want to make the asset? Do I want to have it very narrow in terms of raw material it can use, or product it can produce, or do I want to make it flexible? And the flexibility costs you money in design. So there's the question, how much do you want to spend? And the lifetime of these assets is 30 plus years. And depending on where you are and what it is, it changes eventually 5 times the owner. So you need to make a cautious decision at the beginning. How is my raw material changing? What is my expectation the market is changing, and how stable and how flexible do I want my design or doing my design, so that I can have further flexibility later down the road, or if I need to make changes, going back to design, how expensive will that be? So therefore you want to have one digital representation across this value chain, but you're not stopped here. So you're going even further down into the operations part. So when you're saying, okay, now I have my asset, how do I squeeze the maximum out of it? So to say, okay, I would like to have process optimization, heat integration, utilities optimization. You really want to squeeze it against the process maximum. So in here again, you want to use one digital representation for it, so that you have as smooth as possible data flow across them, because there is no need that you are saying, okay, I have of course different applications, but I want to make the data exchange very smooth. I want to have a similar digital representation of it. Well, there I can go into the next step, which is virtual reality based operations. So that's where we have invented many years ago the concept of VR training for operations. So we're very good when it comes to training the guys in the control room, but when it comes outside the control room, how do you train them? So traditionally it's done like training on the job, working on the job, but we expanded it to the VR component. So now we are saying as well, this has to become a standard operating item. So, and for extremely remote operations, so why don't you already, and visionary customers starting thinking about it, why do I have not already in a design phase taking into account I don't want to have anybody there. I want to have a demand operations on very remote locations, can be platforms or very harsh areas like extremely cold or extremely hot. I don't want to have anybody there, or human intervention as little as possible. So what can I do at the design stage already to make sure how much automation do I need there? How do I start it up? How do I operate it? How resilient is it against upsets or process disturbances? So, and if something happens, and I dispatch a team over there, I want to have them trained in a virtual environment on exactly that plant, and they know exactly what to do because they have no experience. They are not there. So therefore, we want to expand the whole thinking to VR operations at this stage. So at the first step. So, and we have the first elements of it in terms of training. But not done here yet, because then the whole maintenance thing is starting. So say we have one digital representation from the inception of the process design, then actually the supply thinking, the operations part, the training part, now the maintaining part. Because it's all, again, it's a digital twin of your asset. So, and why does that digital twin not use the same information as the digital twin you used in your design phase and your operations phase? So, and take information out of it here. And then as a final step, AI. So to say, look, use artificial intelligence to actually look into your operations and to find bad actors, bad behaviors, or actually assets where you say, look, in a couple of weeks you could run into an issue. So how do you expand it to a plant-wide view? And what you're learning out of it, how do you improve then actually your design of the asset, your process, your firstborn digital twin? So what we have here is actually from a portfolio perspective and from a vision perspective for all the elements I mentioned, we have applications, we have tools, so we have items, we have the digital representation, and for some of them we have platform components, so they're really across parts of these elements. It's the same digital model, it's the same platform. We make it that open that the other elements can plug into it, so that you have a seamless flow of information. And that's what we're calling is a really true digital end-to-end representation of your asset, a true digital twin with a 360 view on it.